Hello, welcome to another video here on my channel. So during this video, I will try to show what are my process in contributing to this library Angular primitives. So basically, during this video, I try to add the Tailwind integration for the component form field, and then I will try to do something similar for the input component as well. So what I'm going to achieve is that if you go, for instance, for the accordion component, we can see here that we have an example to show how to use the application or the library with Tailwind, and that is something similar if you only use the traditional CSS. So I want to do the same thing to provide a similar example using Tailwind for the form field component. So if I now go to VS Code, so the first thing I try to do when I'm creating a new contribution is that I try to make sure that my local repo is up to date with the main repo of the project. So basically, what I'm going to do is that I try to fetch first what is on the upstream, and now I can rebase my main on top of the upstream main. So I've already done it, so that's why there is nothing here to uh, be rebased upon. I mean, you can also do something similar just by going to your repo on GitHub, and then you have a sync button that will allow you to make sure that your repo, the one that you forked, this one is up to date with the main repo of the project. So now let me now start with my form field example. So here is my form field example, and now I want to do something similar. But now this time, instead of having some CSS classes here, what I want to do is that I want to use Tailwind classes directly in the HTML template. So something that helps me to achieve that is I can use my Gemini code assist, and with a few prompts, now I will have my component that will be generated. Then after, I just have to check and see that if things are looking similar. So let me just write a few prompts. So I'll just say that I just want to have a form field example, but this time I want to have the Tailwind version of it. So I have this prompt to generate the Tailwind example for a form field, and Gemini will generate the template of the code. And after, what I will just have to do is that just to make sure that what is generated is more or less similar to what I already have with the form field example, which uses plain CSS. So while this thing is being generated, what I can try to do here, I can just try to create the form field Tailwind. I can't remember if it's a Tailwind before or after, but let me just check with other Tailwind example that there is. Yeah, okay, it's perfect. So it's the Tailwind before. So now is my Gemini code assisted generated? Oh well, it says that I've already exceeded what is allowed. Okay, why not? Well, fortunately, I also have the ChatGPT extension also, so I can do something similar using the ChatGPT code extension. And I can just copy the same prompt and paste it here. just to give the context. That's why I navigated to the front field example. If not, I could just add this context by using the hashtag here directly in the prompt of my of the ChatGPT code extension. So let's see what ChatGPT or the Copilot, what Copilot will generate for me here. So for this pull request that I've been creating uh, when it comes to Tailwind integration, I've just been using ChatGPT Gemini to help me be able to make this conversion between plain CSS and Tailwind classes. So it kind of makes everything straightforward for these contributions. So the code is being generated. Uh, so we already have the Tailwind classes that are given here. So now what what I want to do is that I just have to check if the things they look more or less like what I want to have. Well, it seems to be the case for me with what I'm looking at. So So now I try to do before I can open the pull request here is that I will try to run the documentation and see how this code has been generated, how it looks like. So with this command, I will run the documentation locally. It's complaining that my terminal is too small, or it's still too small. Well, it has to do with the fact that I've increased the police of the font of the of my VS Code so that everything could be shown to the screen. Okay, now it's complaining that there are stuff that couldn't be loaded. Well, could it be that because I haven't installed the latest packages of the application? It could be, but let's try to update the packages and see how it looks like. I just want to make sure that I'm up to date with all the latest changes, all the latest packages. Make sure that I'm not using a stale version of any packages that is present within this repo. So I'm installing the latest packages. And once this step is done, I'll try to rerun the command so that it can launch the application locally. And with this one, I could be able to check if my Tailwind component that is generated is more or less similar to the component that uses the plain CSS. So basically, if you come here as I was showing before, so for instance, this code here will use plain CSS. So you have all of this one. These are just plain CSS. And if you choose the Tailwind, so here you have Tailwind classes. I mean, for the keyframes, we kept the keyframes because they couldn't be added directly to the template. So that's why the keyframes were kept. But apart from the keyframes, all the rest of the CSS classes have been directly added using Tailwind classes. So for these PR or pull requests that have been that have been doing, for a few weeks now. So that's been my process. I try to create the files and I try to generate my code using Gemini or Copilot. And after I try to review and see if things are more or less similar. So now I will rerun this comment that I ran earlier. So just to see that if locally, if you're been able to launch the application, and and more importantly, to see how it looks like. Again, it's complaining that my terminal is too small. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that I've increased the font uh, of what is displayed. I've increased the zoom so that all the things could be well shown as I'm trying to use my VS Code. I don't know if this is the reason why this terminal here is complaining that it's too small. I guess all these they have been added with the latest changes with NX. So NX they've improved the terminal, but I guess this is the side effect is that now it's complaining that my terminal is too small to show some animation. Well, I don't know why now it's being displayed out of the sudden. But as long as it could run this server locally, that's the only thing that I want here. So let's navigate to this link. So in the meantime, if I increase back the font, yes, everything is okay. So we were with the form field component. We were with the form field component. Don't know why somehow things are a little bit slow here. So we were in the form field component. Now the Tailwind appears because now we have added the Tailwind integration, which is great. And now we can see that this is how it looks like when we use a Tailwind currently. But then you also have the plain CSS, and you can see that both of them they look alike, but it's not exactly the same. So that's what I will try um to to fix now by making sure that if we toggle between the CSS example and the Tailwind example, they more or less look similar. After inspecting my code, I realized that in the form field using the Tailwind, the input doesn't have a specific width, whereas in the example using the plain CSS, there is a width that is specified. So let's just fix this one. Again, I will just use a few prompts using Gemini. So what I've observed, I don't know if this is the exact root cause of the issue, but let's check it out. So I've given this prompt again to Copilot and see what it will understand from this. But I'm kind of convinced that it has just have to do with the fact that there is a width that is set to 100% or something in percent. And in the other case, nothing is set for a width of the input. So while this is being generated, I guess it's already generated. So let me just look at what it looks like. Okay, let me see what it looks like. Uh, if I navigate to my form field, and if I go to the Tailwind, so it's still displayed just like that. So it's only a matter of it's only a matter of the width of this input. And sometimes what I try to do as well is that I try to use both code extension, Gemini and ChatGPT, both at the same time. And the idea here is that if one is unable to provide what I'm looking for, then I use the second one. Or sometimes it also means a comparison between the two code extension. So what I want to do here is I'll use the same prompt that I used before. There's no need to change. Uh, Let me just copy this, and we ask the same question using the Gemini code extension. After a few changes, I realized that the main reason why the Tailwind component isn't displayed the same way as the one using plain CSS is because of this declaration that was missing in the Tailwind component. So now that I've added this, so both components they look more or less the same. So you can see here, this is the example CSS, and here is the Tailwind. So basically here they look almost the same. It's just the input that has a small change compared to when we are in the Tailwind. Well, I guess I can just open my PR pull request just like that, or I can also try to make some few changes regarding the edges of this input. But I can try to do the same thing when I create the input here. And as I'm trying to create this one, I can also add the changes directly for this form field. So first thing first, I will try to create my pull request here. So let me go to my terminal. So I have to create a branch first. Now I'm creating my commit. Then after we push it, and directly I will have a link from here, which allows me to create my pull request directly on the repo. Well, it takes a few seconds. So my commit is done. And now I can push my code, which will go to my repository, the one that I have forked from the main repo. And why is complaining that the terminal is too small? I'm sure that it has to do with the fact that I've zoomed in a little bit to see what is happening. So now I have this link here, which allows me to create my pull request. So my commit message follows the guidelines. What kind of changes am I introducing? It's the feature. So there is nothing to close. There is no issue. Uh, the description of the pull request is explicit enough. And is there a breaking change with this new feature? No. So after this one, I can just create my pull request and voila. So this pull request will be reviewed by uh, Ashley, and if it deems my pull request to be exactly what is required, then the pull request will be merged. But something that I can again do before trying um, to go and do one of my other pull requests is that it's using the CSS variables, and I've already had a discussion with Ashley, and he told me not to use CSS variables. So I just go to my code again and let me check if I have CSS variables in this. Don't have any. So have I pushed the right thing? Okay. I see. It's also because since some of my other pull requests haven't been merged, then that's why. Because I was like, why is it that I have some CSS variables that are appearing in my pull request? But that's because some of my other uh, pull requests haven't been merged yet. So it is as if what file is this one? So this one is the accordion. This is the accordion tailwind example. Okay, so weird, but it's appearing. Yeah, I know what happened. It's because I was using the main instead of using the next branch. Guys, this is the part of the issue. So let me try to if pause push just to see what happens. But I was kind of surprised because I haven't touched these files, the accordion, the combo box, and the file upload. I haven't touched them in this pull request that I'm currently doing. That's why I was surprised to see them appearing here. So let's see if this one solves the problem. How many changes is it seeing? Seeing 4 changes. So maybe I didn't pay enough attention to. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to. So I try to reset. Didn't pay enough attention to the changes before making the pull request, because normally I'm supposed to have only one file change, which is the form field Tailwing example. So I guess the fact that I was using the rebase on top of the main branch instead of the next, that it just has caused some files to slide in. So, so now, okay, I have only one file change, which is the form field Tailwind that I've added. And now, if with this one, if I try to make my commit again, so now I will do again a pause push. I'm not doing a pause push with a release here, just because I know that I'm the only one that have used this branch, so I can do the pause push. So I'm within my branch and nobody has checked out this branch yet, so it's okay not to do a force push with a lease. So it's been pushed. So now if I refresh here, well, I should have only one file change. Exactly, that's exactly what I want. I was supposed to have only one file change. And voila, I guess everything is okay. And I just wait until this pull request is reviewed. So I can also proceed and do something similar. And this time with the input component. Generally, I try to do 2 pull requests at a time. So again, if I go to and check out to my main, and I can create so I want to create the Tailwind integration for the input component as well. And so that I don't have the same issue that I had earlier. So I just want to make sure that this new branch inclines to the next branch of the upstream. So very simple to do that. And now what I also want to do is that I also make sure that all the new files that have been added, they are removed from the repo, or from this branch, I mean. So now I'm sure that my uh, my input Tailwind branch also points to the next uh, branch of the upstream. So I'm confident of that one. So now what I will do is that similar to what I did with the form field example, I will also try to create an input. For now, it is empty. And as I did earlier, I can just go to my good friend Gemini extension, and I will ask Gemini to create. So with this prompt, Gemini will be able to create the Tailwind version of my input example. Hopefully that this time it works. I don't know why it didn't work earlier, but if it doesn't work with the Gemini code extension, I'll just switch and use the ChatGPT and the Copilot. Okay, so now he's even suggesting creating new files. Well, I didn't have that one before. That's why each time I have to do it, I try to create a file myself before I try to create a prompt. But I guess now that even they've made some changes with this code extension so that you can also directly create new files, though. That's good. That's good. Well, more powers to the developers. All right. So I have now this. Let's see how it looks like if I directly, again, the same thing as is just I try to run directly the documentation locally and see how it looks like. I mean, the goal of this Tailwind integration is to show and to highlight that this library, ng primitive, it could be used in a different ways. Those that want to use plain CSS, they can use the library. Those that want to use Tailwind, they could also use the library. That's really the strength of this library is style agnostic, and uh, every every developer could customize this library in such a various ways because the library makes it easier for it to be customized. So that's why, like this pull request that I've been making is to highlight the strength of this library, that it doesn't depend on the fact that we are using CSS or you are using Tailwind. Just bring your design system and you can be able to use this library. So really, it's one of the biggest core strength of this library, ng primitive. So now let me go to localhost. I guess I've already done them. Let me go here and see how it looks like. So now if I go to the input, normally the input now should also have, not yet, well, it's loading. Now the input should also have a uh, tailwind that will appear in the select here. So this is for the form field. Now if you go to the input, yeah, now the tailwind. So now the tailwind also appears for the input, and it's almost similar. almost similar to what we have with the example CSS. So we can see that there is a slight difference here related to the fact that if I inspect this, I will see that it's related to the border. If I see, I will see that the border, we have a border shadow that is applied. And that this is what is creating this, yeah, this slight difference between the CSS example, like with the example. But uh, I mean, um, this is the goal of this pull request is to show what can be done between the tailwind and the example using the plain CSS. So it's not necessary to show how to be on par with both approaches, because it's totally possible to do the same thing using Tailwind. For instance, I could directly use the CSS variables that I use in a plain CSS. I could also use them in Tailwind. But then if someone um, open it in StatBlitz, these CSS variables will not be shown. So I mean, there is no need necessary to use these CSS variables directly in Tailwind. So I mean, maybe let me just move the ins the developer console directly on this screen so that it can be shown. So yeah, what I was talking about here is the fact that we can see if we inspect this input, we can see that there is a box shadow that is applied here in the plain CSS. And then if you go to the tailwind, and if you still inspect the same input, if you inspect this input, so there is, so you also have a box shadow that both of them are not really similar. So that's why we have the small difference between the two inputs. Um, so what can be done is that if you go here, what can be done is just like we, we can try to use the same box shadow variables, the NGP input shadow, but I don't think that that's really the aim is to use CSS variables in Tailwind. So it will be up to the one using also this library also to provide its own CSS variables and is to provide its own design system. But the what we just want to highlight is the fact that this library and Angular primitive or ng primitives, it's possible to customize it in a various ways. Like it gives powers to developers to be able to do whatever they want. You just provide their own design system, and then just the ng primitives could adjust with what the developers are using. So really, it's one of the core strengths of this library. So that's all for this video. Maybe before I just wrap up, maybe let me just also create this pull request so that you can have the whole thing regarding this contribution. So first of all, let me add a new file. Again, also the reason why I'm also making this video also is to show that sometimes contributing to open source is not always something very difficult, especially for these PRs. It's just to know what I'm doing, and also to use Gemini or Copilot to generate part of the code that I want to write. Well, it's true. Someone could also write all these Tailwind classes by hand. I'm not very familiar with Tailwind. Actually, it's only when I've started contributing with NG Community that I started using Tailwinds, but I'm not really familiar with Tailwind. But just by using Gemini, and ChatGPT or Copilot, they have really helped me to have a grasp of what Tailwind is. And really like just by using this AI code extension has really helped me to be proficient writing these pull requests. So also the goal of this PR as well is to show that and sometimes just contributing to open source is just a way to give a hand to those that are working hard in maintaining and um, updating libraries, creating libraries. So it's kind of part of a collective effort to make the open source a better world. So let me just add my this file and this. Now I make a commit. So the linter will run. That's what it takes a little bit of couple of times. This is the part for the linter to run. And once the linter have finished running, then the commit will be made. And after we push it, and once it's been pushed, I have a link that allows me to directly create the pull request as well. So it's everything straightforward. So now I push this. I don't know why there is also another linter that is run, but I've never tried to understand that. So there is a linter that is run when there is a commit that is made, and before the push as well, there is also another linter that is run. Well, you can just say that just to make sure that the code that is pushed satisfies the what has been given to be linted. So okay, yeah, this is why it's weird. Now I have a small change which wasn't here before. That's something, yeah, something I don't understand why, but that's okay. Just have to make a commit amend just to make sure that these changes that appeared, they are all part of the same commit. I never tried to understand why sometimes that's the case. Maybe it's a bad configuration on my part, but I could also ask Ashley, who is the main maintainer on this project, why is that the case? But it's no biggie. When it should start bothering me, maybe I'll ask the question. Anyway, and now how to make a first pushed. Don't think it was required to make a first push though, because uh, I haven't yet created a pull request. Either way, let me just make a push first and okay. So do I have the link? No, I don't have a link, which means that yeah, it was the pull request who have been created earlier. So similar to what we did before, the commit message follows the guidelines. It is a feature and there is no need to describe anything because it's self-explanatory with the description. And does this PR introduce a breaking change? No. And making sure that I only have only one file that is updated, that is created. All right, I create my pull request and it to be reviewed in due time. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comment below what you found interesting, uh, and if you yourself also you're contributing to an open source project, and just let me know. And also if you've already used ng primitives as well, let me know in the comment what you think about these primitives, about this library, and also things you would like to see maybe in this library if you've already used it. So I'll be really interested to see what are your thoughts on this library. So as for me, let's see each other in another video. Bye.